The Council's warning, humanity under scrutiny. The Galactic Council had always been wary of humanity. They had watched Earth rise from a backwater world to a spacefaring civilization in less than 2 centuries. No other species had advanced so quickly. No other species had survived so much war. Humans were different, restless, relentless, unpredictable. And then, the Council received a report that terrified them. An informant had leaked classified intelligence, schematics, shipyard records, power consumption logs. Humanity was building something in secret, something impossible. A warship that defied every restriction the Council had ever imposed. It was not bound by the limits of known technology. It was not restricted by the treaties that kept galactic warfare in check. It was something entirely new. The Council called an emergency session. Every major empire, every ruling species, every power in the known galaxy convened. The evidence was overwhelming. The Erebus was real, and it was nearly finished. The vote was unanimous. Humanity must be stopped. An official message was sent to Earth. A demand: cease construction immediately. Decommission the warship. Dismantle its weapons. The Galactic Council will not permit this violation of the Treaty of War. It was not a negotiation. It was an order. And when the Council's envoys arrived at Earth's capital, they expected obedience. Every other species in history had fallen in line. But when the human representative stepped forward, their response was simple. No. The Council was stunned. They reminded humanity of the consequences. The sanctions, the embargoes, the military action that could follow. But humanity did not flinch. Instead, they did something no species had ever done before. They refused to acknowledge the Council's authority at all. You do not control us. With those words, everything changed. The Council had expected defiance. But outright rejection? That was something they had never encountered. The envoys left Earth in silence. Back in the Council chambers, the ruling species of the galaxy whispered among themselves. This was no longer about a warship. This was about a species that refused to kneel. The Council gave humanity one last chance. Stand down. Destroy the Erebus now, or we will take action. The message was sent. No response came. And that silence was the most terrifying thing of all. Because humanity had made their choice. They were not going to comply. They were going to launch. The Erebus, a warship beyond limits. The Erebus was not just a warship. It was a revolution. A vessel that ignored the carefully crafted balance of power in the galaxy. Every species had limits placed on their weapons. Their ships were designed within strict guidelines, ensuring no single force could ever dominate another. But humanity had never agreed to those rules. And the Erebus? It was designed without limits. It had been built in the shadows, hidden deep within the Sol system, away from prying eyes. A warship that defied everything the galaxy understood about warfare. The Council thought it was just another dreadnought, an overpowered battleship with bigger guns. They were wrong. The Erebus was not a dreadnought. It was something else. Its hull was composed of multi-layered reactive armor, designed not just to absorb damage, but to counteract it. Its power source was an experimental energy core, something no other species had successfully developed. While other fleets relied on shields to block attacks, the Erebus had no need for them. Because shields could fail, armor could not. Its weapons? Not the typical energy cannons the galaxy had grown accustomed to. Instead, it carried kinetic weaponry on a scale never before seen. A railgun the size of a city, capable of launching hyperdense projectiles at a fraction of light speed. A single round could punch through a fleet. And its secondary weapons were no less terrifying. Instead of guided missiles, it carried smart munitions, self-adapting warheads that could change trajectory mid-flight, evade countermeasures, and adjust to enemy weaknesses in real time. The Erebus did not fight like other ships. It did not trade blows. It did not engage in slow, drawn-out battles. It ended conflicts. It was a weapon of absolute destruction, and it was ready. Inside its control room, the best minds of humanity gathered. Engineers, scientists, and tacticians. People who had designed this ship with one purpose. Not conquest, not domination, but deterrence. to ensure that no empire, no council, no force in the galaxy would ever think of challenging Earth again. As the final systems came online, the shipyard shook with power. Engines roared. Weapons hummed, fully armed. Deep within the hull, the main cannon charged for the first time. It was not a prototype. It was not a test. The Erebus was complete. Humanity had defied the orders of the Council. They had ignored the threats. And now, the most advanced warship in the history of warfare was about to launch. The Council had called it illegal. But Earth? They called it freedom. The Council's last attempt, a threat to humanity. The Galactic Council had underestimated humanity once. They would not make that mistake again. The moment intelligence confirmed that the UHS Erebus was fully operational, the Council convened an emergency session. For the first time in history, every ruling species, every empire, every major fleet admiral sat in the same chamber. The situation was clear. Humanity had ignored their demands. They had built a warship outside the limits of galactic law. And now, that warship was ready to launch. The Council's decision was unanimous. Humanity must be contained, by force if necessary. The order was given. A blockade of Earth. Every species contributed ships, dozens of fleets, thousands of warships, each one a testament to the galaxy's combined power. They would not invade. Not yet. Instead, they would cut Earth off. No trade. No supplies. No reinforcements. They would starve humanity into submission. The Council assumed Earth would understand the message. Stand down. Decommission the Erebus. Surrender your advanced technology. This does not have to become war. They expected negotiations. They expected humanity to bend. Instead, they were met with silence. Not a single response. Not a single request for diplomacy. Humanity had gone dark. For 3 days, the Council's blockade forces held position, watching, waiting. And then, on the 4th day, their sensors picked up movement. A single ship, a massive, ominous silhouette, moving from Earth's orbit toward the blockade line. The Erebus. Its engines burned bright as it slowly, deliberately approached. Inside the warship's command center, Captain Elias Mercer watched the tactical displays. Humanity had spent centuries obeying the laws of the Council. They had respected the balance of power. But that respect was never submission. The blockade wasn't just a threat. It was a challenge. And the Erebus was their answer. The ship continued forward. No hails. No broadcasts. No warnings. Just the unstoppable approach of something the galaxy had tried to erase. The Council fleets, sensing the moment was upon them, activated weapons. Targeting systems locked onto the Erebus. A final message was sent. Turn back. Deactivate your systems. Stand down. The Erebus kept moving. One of the blockade commanders, nervous, gave the order. A warning shot. A single pulse of plasma energy, launched from the nearest destroyer, aimed to pass just ahead of the Erebus. A demonstration of intent. It never landed. Before the shot could reach its target, the Erebus reacted. A defense system, something beyond what the Council had ever seen, intercepted the blast mid-space. A gravitational distortion field ripped the plasma apart before it could touch the warship's hull. A silence fell over the blockade. The Erebus had just shrugged off one of the most powerful weapons in the galaxy. Without a single shield, without a single visible countermeasure. The Council forces, for the first time, hesitated, because they realized something in that moment. This was not just another warship. This was something else, something they had never encountered before. And if they opened fire, it would be war, a war they were no longer sure they could win. The Battle of the Blockade, the Erebus enters war. The moment the Erebus crossed the blockade line, the war began. The Council's fleet did not want this battle. They had come to intimidate, to force compliance, to bring humanity back under control. But now, as the massive warship breached their perimeter without hesitation, they had no choice. A second shot was fired. Not a warning this time. A full-powered plasma burst, aimed directly at the Erebus's hull. It never reached its target. Before the blast could impact, the air around the Erebus shimmered. Space itself twisted. The plasma bolt, traveling at relativistic speeds, curved unnaturally and then vanished into nothing. The Council commanders barely had time to process what had just happened before the Erebus responded. For the first time, humanity's warships spoke. Not with words, with firepower. A single railgun shot erupted from the Erebus's forward battery. It was not an energy weapon. It did not glow with the artificial light of plasma or antimatter. It was pure mass accelerated to unimaginable speed. A slug of tungsten, the size of a building, moving at a fraction of light speed. It struck the Council's lead battleship in the blink of an eye. One moment the ship was there. The next it was gone. Not destroyed. Not exploded. Obliterated. A hole punched straight through the warship's hull, vaporizing everything in its path. A ship designed to withstand the most advanced energy weapons in the galaxy, ripped apart by a weapon the Council had long dismissed as primitive. Panic spread through the blockade. The Council had come expecting resistance. They had not expected this. More shots erupted from the Erebus. It did not fire in rapid succession. It did not need to. Every shot counted. Every shot hit. And every shot ended a ship. The Council's fleet, the combined might of the most powerful empires in the galaxy, was crumbling. Their weapons were ineffective. Their defenses were useless. The blockade was no longer a blockade. It was a massacre. Inside the Council command ship, Admiral Cathis stared at the tactical display, his hands shaking. This was impossible. Humanity was a young race, a species that should have never been able to build something like this. And yet, here it was, a warship that broke every rule, a warship that should not exist, a warship that had just ripped apart the strongest fleet the Council had ever assembled. The battle was lost. It wasn't even a battle. It was a demonstration, a warning. Cathis turned to his officers. Order a retreat. The words tasted like poison, but there was no other choice. One by one, the remaining Council ships fled. They left behind the wreckage of their shattered fleet. They left behind the burned-out husks of their finest warships. And they left behind a single, undeniable truth. The Erebus had just defied the Galactic Council, and won. The aftermath, humanity's place in the galaxy. The Galactic Council was silent. For the first time in its long history, there were no commands, no ultimatums, no sanctions, because they knew none of it would matter. The old balance of power, the system that had kept every species in check, was broken, not by war, not by diplomacy, but by a single warship, the UHS Erebus. Its existence alone had shattered every assumption the Council had about humanity. They had called it illegal. They had called it a violation of galactic law. They had called it impossible. And yet, it had torn through their mightiest fleet in minutes. It had forced them to retreat. It had ended a war before it even began. The message was clear. Humanity was not under their control, and it never would be. Across the galaxy, the news spread. Once, the ruling empires had debated whether Earth was a minor power. Now, they debated something else entirely. Do we fear them? Because if this was what one warship could do, then what would happen if Earth built more? The answer was clear. The galaxy had a choice. Accept humanity as an equal or risk annihilation. The Council, knowing full well what a second conflict would mean, sent one final message to Earth. Not an order, not a demand. A simple statement. We recognize humanity's sovereignty. The warship Erebus is no longer under review. There will be no sanctions, no retaliation. The Council has no further business with Earth. In other words, we surrender. But humanity never asked for their permission. The response from Earth was just as simple. Understood. No threats. No gloating. No calls for revenge. The Erebus had spoken for them. The ship that had defied the most powerful empires in the galaxy was now a legend. A symbol of what happened when humanity was pushed too far. A warning. Because the Erebus was not just a warship. It was proof. Proof that humanity had reached a new era. Proof that Earth was no longer a mere participant in galactic politics. Proof that, from this moment forward, the galaxy would never be the same. And as the Erebus drifted silently in the void, its guns idle, its armor barely scratched from battle, every species that had once doubted humanity knew one thing. Earth did not need to conquer. It did not need to expand, because with ships like the Erebus, it already owned the future. And that, my friends, is how humanity defied the entire galaxy and changed the course of history with a single warship. The Erebus was more than just a vessel. It was a message, a warning, a declaration that Earth would never be ruled. But the question remains, what happens next? If one ship could dismantle the balance of power, what would an entire fleet of them do? What if the Council, or another enemy, decided to test humanity again? Would the Erebus be just the beginning of something far greater? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And before you go, if you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe to HFY Aliens Battle for more epic tales of humanity's defiance, survival, and dominance in the stars. Hit that like button if you love stories where humanity proves the galaxy wrong. And remember, in the vastness of space, there's one universal truth. Never underestimate Earth. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. A warship so advanced, the Galactic Council declared it illegal. The ship that changed everything. The Galactic Council had ruled the stars for thousands of years. They had created the laws of war, established limits on military technology, and ensured that no single species could ever rise above the others. It was balance, order, until humanity built a warship so powerful, so advanced, that it broke every rule. They had seen the warnings, the reports, the rumors. A warship unlike anything in the galaxy's history. A vessel that ignored every limitation the Council had ever enforced. It wasn't just dangerous. It wasn't just powerful. It was unstoppable. The Council convened an emergency session. The decision was swift. This ship is illegal. Its construction was to be shut down immediately. Its weapons were to be dismantled. Its crew was to be disbanded. But humanity? They had no intention of listening. Because this ship was never meant to be controlled by the Council. It was built for one purpose: to ensure that humanity would never be ruled by anyone. Before going forward, please subscribe to HFY Aliens Battle, because what happened next would shake the entire galaxy. The Council ordered the destruction of the ship before it was ever launched. They sent fleets, emissaries, threats. It didn't matter. The warship was already complete. And the day it left its dock, the balance of power in the galaxy changed forever. This is the story of a UHS Erebus, the most advanced warship in human history. The ship the Council tried to erase. The ship that proved Earth could not be controlled. And the ship that forced the galaxy to face a terrifying truth. Humanity would never bow.